welcome, aloha, and happy Father's Day. Thanks. I got to say, we've been here a little over a year. Y'all have been really good sports about these stadiums that you have to climb. I haven't had anybody complain about them. Thank you, because it's a bit of a. I try to every Sunday. I try to notice when Michelle's bringing her heavy case down. I usually get about halfway up to help her down the rest of the way, but it's a lot. And you guys have. Thank you for not being the Israelites in the wilderness and complaining about it. And, yeah, that's a big. But just so you know, if you ever want a seat, like Felicia came in here making demands this morning. It was like, excuse me. So, but if you ever want to sit on the floor, just let us know. I think there's a few extra chairs. We can work that out. So, I always, because I don't ever get on them when I walk up. I'm like, oh Lord, this is y'all are. That's like we were in San Francisco. We were walking up a sidewalk like this. I thought, no wonder everybody's in great shape here. You're burning calories just walking to the car. Anyway, those of you who are logged on at home, happy Father's Day to you, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Good crowd. I know I would love to think you came to hear me today, but you obviously came to hear Chandra, so whatever it takes. I'll take it. I ain't mad at it. Spirit of God, we're always in your presence. Where can we go from your presence? God is everywhere. But on days like today, when we come together in this one geographic location, there is a special synergy. Jesus said, where two or more are gathered together, there am I in the midst. There's something different that happens in the concept of the Christ when we come together. We thank you for the people who have made the effort to drive to a part of town it's not where they live and look for a parking place and still come in with a good attitude. I thank you for that, and I command a blessing on them. The scriptures say there is a reward for those that diligently seek God. And I declare that everyone who has made the effort to be here today is obviously diligent. So there's a blessing for all. We thank you for it in your name. Amen. I also want to say before remain standing, I'm certainly happy to have three of my children, three of my five children here today. My son Jared, who just drove in from his mom's house up in 3 hours to get here in South Carolina, and Jonah and Sophie, who just drove up from Florida, and they're here today. So I appreciate it. Obviously, Judah can't be here because he's at his service, but I'm always happy to when my kids are in the house. Please remain standing. Let's do the Lord's Prayer and hope that Michelle doesn't rush us through it. You're never going to live that down. Michelle apparently thought we were taking too long, so I'm like, Michelle, could you just slow down on the words of Jesus? I'm sorry we added a few more, but you got somewhere to be. You got to be. Our Father who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life, hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature. On earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. but deliver us from evil, as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen. And so it is. Tell the person next to you, there's nobody I'd rather sit next to than you today, Big Daddy. Call him Big Daddy, and then you may be seated. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Our guest that we have today, I can't think of anybody to compare her to. I've heard her cover other people's songs, and she actually makes them sound better than the person who wrote the song. And people throw around the word unique a lot, but Shonda Corelli is a truly unique gift. She has a unique anointing. I've seen her in lots of different venues, and especially watching the reactions of people who hadn't heard her yet, and see it's not entertainment, it's something else that she does, and the music really affects you on a very deep level. I've said this about Marshall when he was here, and other people covering someone else's song. Some people cover, some people interpret, and interpreting music is creating or connecting to the essence that the writer meant, and Chandra certainly does that. And when I first started Metron, she was the first person that I had, and we've been doing this. We're coming up on our 10th anniversary, and I don't do the full Artist of the Month like I was, but when we can work it out, I'm always glad to have her. I also want to say, and Shonda, why don't you tell everybody? Shonda has a residency here. There's a place where she sings once a month. It'd be great. Let's work out a Metron night. That would be awesome to do like a group event. Everybody could go at the same time. If you've never seen her I think most of you probably have, but if you've ever seen her with a live band, it's a whole other thing that she does, and so that would be really cool. And she can tell you where it is and when. I mean, you can go anytime, but I was thinking we haven't done like a Metron event. Maybe that should be our outing for July, maybe. So, but without any further ado, I never tell her what to do or give her a time limit. She can do as much or as little as she wants. I'm just happy she's here, looking fabulous in that yellow. She said, "I wore it for you." I said, "I know you did. You better bring your A game on Father's Day." I know you're all comfortable. Would you just get up one more time and welcome the one, the only Shonda Corelli. Chandra!
Happy Father's Day, everybody. Being a father can be hard, stressful. But know that we appreciate you and we love you. And you're just right. I'm here with you so peacefully. Control the we should be. I'm yours for now and eternity. I hear your voice so soft and sweet, in rhythm and in time repeat, telling me how you love and adore me. You're just right, like I like. Oh, when you hold me tight, it just feels right. I'm not different than anyone else, and I must confess I've had issues of trust and about us. You're my friend, more than that, through thick and thin. Everything I am, all I owe to you. It's not new, but it's right. Like I like. Oh, when you hold me tight, it just feels right. Into my life you brought me joy, joy, joy. To be the one that I can depend on. Ooh, yeah, yeah. You're just right. Oh, my mind, you're just right. Oh, yes. You, oh, just like I like you. Oh, oh, my mind, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, you know you're just right. Oh, my, you're just right. Yeah, oh, you're just right. Oh, my little, no, yeah. Bum, 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 we, yeah, oh, long, don't lead my little baby, look at all and lead them by. Oh, yes, don't lead them by. Little, oh, don't lead her by. Little, can lead her by. Oh, little, you're just right. Thank you. Knowing that our Heavenly Father is always here. He'll never leave. He'll never forsake you. You can always count on Him. Again, I came through, but not without you. You paved the way for a brighter day. I didn't have to worry, I didn't have to stress. I just believed, and you did the rest. It's not about what I can do, but all the things I get from you to keep me safe from day to day. At night as I lay, you cover all the things not right. You keep them from my very sight, because you love me. No matter what, you're always there. Times when I get weak, needing you to speak, you never let me down. You always know what's inside, and you know when I get tired and I can't go on. It's you, yes, it's you. Get from you at night. Oh, because you love me, no matter what. Things that look so big now seem small to me. You gave me the strength, no matter how it ends. I can count on you. Nothing just happens. You're always there. Oh, yes. Yes, I know, yes. No matter what, you're always there. Oh, yes. All the things, yeah. You keep them from my very sight. Oh, because you love me. I can be. Oh, I can be it because of you. See it because of you. Oh, yes. Oh, because you're there, I can be the very thing, yeah. Oh, the very thing I see myself as. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No matter what, you're always there. Woo! Come on in here with y'all late selves. Bishop gonna get me for that. I ain't gonna even look. See? You know, all of us, you know, we don't have our fathers here on earth. Right? So, but one thing about it, they leave with us what they leave. And we take what we need. Yes? And what we don't need it, we don't take it. But we're grateful what they did give us that we can use to help us to elevate. That means that you are the real you. You are truly who you are supposed to be. Can I get you to stand up? Woo! Come on. Crank it up, Charles. Crank it up, Charles. Did things that I can't even talk about. But God knows I don't even have to open my mouth. You see, I'm so down, I just got to say it. That down, I'm not made it, but God worked it out. So I could see the real, the one he wants me to be. Old friends think that it's a fact they don't believe. That God has changed and satisfied all my needs. 'Cause past things I did, I just had to let them go. Oh, because I was stupid and I just didn't know. Oh, I'm so down, I just got to say it. There's no doubt I would not not have made it, but God worked it out so I could see the real me, the one it was meant to be. My purpose here is to instill the love of God. So I change my will, let His be revealed. Now try apart. People, I just got to let you know. Cause if you thought that I'm stupid, no more. Oh, I'm so down. I just got to say it, that there's no doubt I would not have made it, but God worked it out so I could see the real me. Oh, the one it wants me to be. Yeah. Talking about the real me. I'm talking about the real me. I'm talking, yeah. Let it alone. Say, mama, sing, come on, and I say, they can burn it up, but I don't think about my number song to the man. I think I'm on Sunday. Yep, on the ringing, I'm on song to the taste. I ring on and I said, a song to the thing. Yep, so then get up on my gun, get up on tongue, get up on my thing, the real.
Shonda Corelli. Awesome. What she said. That was awesome, Shonda. That's your water too, by the way. Wow. Okay, if you can, be seated. Felicia thought she was in the club a minute ago. I was like, you come here often? What's your sign, girl? Yeah, that was good. That was good. Love it. Chandra, you always leave us wanting more. I'm like, that's it? Yeah, good stuff. Thank you for being here. Those of you that just got here, we're glad everybody's here. Let me remind you that our giving this month, our outreach is once again St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We've given to them several times. It's always a worthy place to send money. For children who have cancer, they're able to go and everything, even their food, lodging, everything is covered. It's amazing. What they do. Also remember that we have Meditation Weekend number 23 that's coming up on August 3rd and 4th on Driftwood Beach in Jekyll Island. It will also be Metron's 10th anniversary celebration, so this one's an important one. We've done them in Jekyll Island before, but we've never done a sunrise on Driftwood, and it's real, especially the way the island is facing it. The sunrises are spectacular, so it's worth you going just for that. So looks like we've already got a good group going. If you're interested in going, go to the cover photo on my Facebook page, and all the information is there. All right. I think that is everything that I needed to announce, I believe. We ready for the podcast, Charles? Say what? I already got your text. I just saw your text a minute ago. Did you mean to send that to me? She sent me a meme. She says, "You know you're black." I'm like, okay, thank you. You're not the first to say it. Now, as you're, BJ, this is when you break into a chorus of "I'm Every Woman." And what did you? Something I did. I did a couple of 11:11s this week. What you said the name of that movie? Everywhere, Everything. Wasn't that you that wrote that? Yeah. Because of what I was teaching. They might be worth you checking out. That we had a couple of good words this week. All right. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from the beautiful Kirkwood neighborhood, Midtown Atlanta adjacent. Metron people, would you please give the podcast people a big welcome? As always, we thank Charles McFall, the rock god of podcasting. We speak into this atmosphere and we say, let there be light. I've never used this title before in 53 years of preaching, but my title today is For Adults Only. And the rest of the title is Growing into the Wisdom of Liberated Maturity. I'm going to show you two verses of Scripture that seem to conflict with one another. The first one is out of the love chapter. It's 1 Corinthians 13:11. In the King James, you know, ancient manuscripts were written by men to men. So the way it's interpreted in the 1611 version is, when I became a man, I put away childish things. In the Names of God translation, it says it this way. You got that? There. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, and reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I no longer used childish ways. So that's an exhortation about growing up, stop acting like a baby, stop, go ahead and become realized as a fully grown adult. Now, as is typical for Jesus and Paul, remember, Paul never read Jesus' words. Most of what we have in modern Christianity is a Pauline creation. The Gospels were written after the epistles by the apostles who did not accept Paul's apostleship. In a very real sense, the Gospels were written, there were originally 300 of them. The Council of Nicaea winnowed them down to 4 that we have. But the Gospels were to sort of set the record straight. Paul said, Jesus said so-and-so, and the apostles like, no, he did not. We were there personally, and this is what he said. So here's their take. This is Matthew chapter 18, verse 2 through 5. This is in the Message translation. It says, for an answer, Jesus called over a child whom he stood in the middle of the room and said, I'm telling you once and for all that unless you return to square one and start over like children, you're not even going to get a look at the kingdom, let alone get in. Whoever becomes simple and elemental again like this child will rank high in God's kingdom. What's more, when you receive the childlike on my account, it's the same as receiving me. So we've got Corinthians telling us, grow up, put away childish things. We've got Matthew saying, if you're going to get in the kingdom, you got to be like a child. This is why the scriptures have to be rightly divided and not wrongly connected. I would even go so far, it took me a lot of years to have the courage to say this, but I say it with total confidence now. The reason you rightly divide it is because some of it has to be done away with. Now, some people are afraid to say that. No, you need the whole thing. No, you obviously don't need the whole thing, or there'd be no point in rightly dividing it. When I eat crab legs, I love crab legs, but you got to really love. It's a lot of work. I mean, I got to be like on the beach at a place that's just kind of gnarly anyway, just because you're going to make a mess. And y'all know what I'm talking about if you ever make, and you end up making this huge pile of shells for just a very little bit of meat. So you're rightly dividing it. You don't just sit down and just, grab a crab leg and crunch down. You're going to break a tooth. And it's going to be horrible. So there's a lot of dividing that goes on so that you can wait for the server to come along and say, can I take this out of your way? Thank you very much. Same thing for ribs. Ribs are great, but there's a whole lot of bone and a little bit of meat on there, right? It involves a lot of rightly dividing. And that's why I use those analogies, because people understand the reason you divide something is to throw some of it away. Well, how do we know which part to throw away? The part that your heart, that resonates with your heart, when Spirit speaks to your spirit, it doesn't mean you take a scissors and cut out the parts of your Bible you don't like. It just means you're able to look at it in its proper context and say, yes, I understand that this person in antiquity said this, but this is not the definitive word of God. This is the way men of old believed God spoke, and there's a whole lot of validity to it. I mean, it is inspired. Inspired is not infallible. Those are two different things. I'm inspired. You know, how many of you believe, if you've ever heard me preach, at some time or another you believe something or someone we call God spoke through me? All right. Some of you didn't raise your hand. We'll talk later. How many of you also, if I were to call you tomorrow and say, listen, I just got a word from God, I think you're supposed to go crawl up on the top of your house and jump off. You would know to say, Bishop, I love you, but I don't think I'm going to do that, and you need to take a nap. But that's what rightly dividing is. You say, well, yeah, God has spoken through him. I believe God's spoken sometimes to some of you here individually. This week, several people have texted me about different issues, and I just text them something back, and they're like, oh, my God, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah, okay, that's God speaking through me. That doesn't mean I am an absolute oracle. It doesn't mean everything that comes out of my mouth needs to be written down. I remember years ago, this is back in the charismatic 70s, when I was traveling around a lot and I was using the gifts of the Spirit. I met these two women that had these notebooks. And they said, we've been wanting to meet you because we write down everything that you prophesy, and we use them in our Bible study. And it kind of creeped me out a little bit. I said, I'm flattered, I guess, but y'all keep your Bibles. Don't let's I said, even if I prophesy, prophecy needs to be judged. It's not just I think y'all may be going in the wrong direction. I love that y'all love me like that, but don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I didn't say that because that was years before that movie came. You know that's from the movie Talladega Nights, right? Sometimes I quote movies and people think I'm just saying stuff. Wellington's wife's name is Memory, and for years I sang the Andrew Lloyd Webber song Memory to her. She thought I had written it for her. I said, no, Memory, that's a song. It's from the musical Cats. But when I meet, she's the only person I've ever met named Memory, so how could I not say, Memory, not a sound from the past. I mean, that's how I think. And tonight's the Tonys, and that's my Super Bowl, so I will be watching. Anyway, so we have two completely different ideas. Now, this guy, this third comment, this is this Richard Norquist. He's written on a website that kind of explains the meanings of words, and he really captures the essence of what I'm trying to get across here today. It says the adjectives childish and childlike both refer to the characteristics of a child, but generally not to the same characteristics. Put another way, childish usually has negative connotations, while childlike usually has positive connotations. Childish commonly means silly or immature. This adjective usually, but not always, points to unfavorable qualities. Childlike means trusting or innocent, and it generally refers to the more positive or favorable qualities of a child. Now, when it comes to counseling, I can tell you this, most of the counseling I've done throughout my ministry are adults trying to figure out their childhoods. Sometimes it will come in the guise of marriage counseling or something like that, but when you really talk to people and you hear their story, you realize y'all don't have marital problems. You're just two children that haven't grown up, and you've brought your childishness into this marriage, and you're not mature enough to deal with his or her childishness. So I'm seeing two biological adults in front of me, but really there's two kids sitting here that just need to work out some stuff. And good luck with that, because here's something you probably should know. Your inner child is still in you and is alive and well. And if you think that he or she is not in there, don't set yourself up for being surprised when something triggers you and suddenly it's 1968 all over again. You're like, I know it's in theory it's 2024, but right now, this thing set off this neuropath in my brain that led me to a childhood memory. So we're all trying to figure that out. It's not a bad thing. There's wonderful things about being a child. Just before we started today, Wayne is a competitive ice skater. So I was asking him before we started. I said, I know you're younger than me. I said, but do you remember when Colony Square over here on the corner of Peachtree and 14th had a big ice rink? And also, what most recently has been the CNN Center. Before that, it was the Omni, but there was a big ice skating rink there, and that's where he started. And I said, back in the day, in the 70s, that was like a big dating thing. You went ice skating. They even had one at Stone Mountain. I don't remember I ever skated there, but Colony Square and the Omni, I definitely did. And just for a moment, it's not really a childhood memory, but it's a teenage memory. And you feel a bond with somebody that they remember that thing. There's certain things about childhood that I could say to all of you that no matter where you came from, economically or whatever, you would probably relate to. Like in my age demographic, I think this is one thing that younger people don't understand, the joy of Saturday mornings. Because when there were only 3 channels and there wasn't kids programming, even pre-Sesame Street, it was cartoons. And, you went to school 5 days a week, and Saturday, you might have had a parent that found some chores for you to do on a Saturday, but for the most part, you at least, if not sleep late, you got to at least stay in your pajamas and eat some disgusting cereal, and you had your lineup and see, I can talk about that, and automatically we all remember that. Saturday, watching cartoons, eating. What was your terrible cereal of choice? Fruit Loops? What? Rice Krispies? Captain Crunch always hurt my mouth. There was something about it. It kind of scraped my mouth. Cheers. I'm still a Cheerios guy. I say it's to bring down my cholesterol, but it's because I just love them. I had some last night, as a matter of fact. They were with blueberries and almond milk, but it was Cheerios nonetheless. Yeah, I actually like the healthier cereals, too. We were a big Life cereal family. I love Life. I still love Life cereal. But once in a while, there might have been a little Fruit Loop action, or y'all were Corn Pops. See, everybody had their thing, but there's certain things about childhood we all can relate to. I could also bring up some negative things that happened in childhood. We could talk about being called names on the playground, and a lot of us might have a story about that. And suddenly, did you feel that? Did you feel we were like, yay, we were like a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs a minute ago, and then you bring up playground, we're like, womp, womp. Why? Because childhood is good memories and bad memories, and you have to learn how to grow up and maintain the qualities. I saw a meme this week that I think may be true. It says everybody is born an artist, but you learn as you get older, like the art is taken away from you. Everybody's born with imagination and creativity, and you're taught, somebody has to tell you to color inside the lines. Because your instinct maybe is just like, I just want to see the color on the page. And some people don't survive the restrictions of somebody saying you're not doing it right. Because real art is, well, I don't want to do it right. I want to do it my way. I was put in piano lessons when I was, third grade, and I hated it. I didn't like Miss Cantrell. I remember her name. Had to go to her house. Her house smelled bad. I was scared of her. It was dark and weird in there, and she, I don't think she was called for children. She, like as soon as you walked in, she was already exasperated. Like, it's like, this doesn't feel welcoming. I feel like there's an oven here somewhere, and you're a witch that's going to eat me. And the only way I got out of it, I begged my parents. I said, I will play an instrument if I don't have to take piano lessons. So they did. There was one time I won that fight, and they let me play the saxophone, which I liked much better. But one of my problems with piano lessons is I was a natural improviser. So she would be, making me, Jimmy, did you work on your scales? Like, no, 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 no. I'm like, Miss Cantrell, can I just show you this little thing I've been working on this week? And I'd start doing the Linus thing, and she was not amused. She did not. She did not encourage the creative side. I was watching an interview with Carol Burnett this week, who is 91 and is a comedy icon. And she said that one day she was looking in the mirror making faces, and her nanny, who she lived with, said, "Stop making faces. Nothing good will ever come of it." Well, she was wrong. Carol Burnett built an empire and, made a fortune and is in the icon of great comedians because she made faces. But if somebody tells you not to express your art, sometimes they take away your childhood creativity. Now, the problem is there is a right and a wrong way to do this. I remember, and this was years before the spell check we have now, but I remember when Judah was in first grade. We had him in public school in Conyers, and Debbie and I went and had a conference with his teacher about something, and they had at the time, they had a concept in the school where they didn't want to inhibit children's creativity, so they never told them there was a wrong way to spell a word. They said as long as they attempt to spell it, they should, we just let them go. And I said, I understand the concept and partly applaud you for it. However, does he ever learn how to actually spell the word? Because that's gonna, like on job interviews, and when you're writing a report, lawyers might not be that amused at your ability. And she said, well, he'll have spell check. And I thought, we got to get him out of this school because I completely understand what you're saying. Like, don't, wound his spirit, but also say, you could say it this way, that's a very clever way to spell that word. Now, here's the right way. And so we're constantly having to find, probably whatever you love about your significant other is something about them that's childlike. You might not even realize it. I don't want to embarrass him, but there's something that Ken does that I always have found. He's like, oh my God, what's he going to say now? You should be used to it by now. Like if I'm driving in the car, we're on a trip, and he's asleep, which is a lot, but if I'll turn on the radio, even in his sleep, he starts clapping along with the music. And there's something about that just seems really pure to me. It's like, it's probably even his taste in song, but his subconscious is automatically. Sometimes I just do it, see if he'll do it. He's totally asleep. I'll turn it on, I'll turn it back on, and he's like. And I think that seems like that's probably innate. That's probably something that he couldn't have learned that. And I think, well, that's, and even now, I don't know, like some obscure rap song will come on, and he knows all the words. I'm like, how do you know this? And he'll, like, I'm listening to oldies all the time. You know, I'm listening to Barbra Streisand and Frank Sinatra, and he's like, Mariah Carey's new album drops this weekend. I'm like, how do you even know that? And furthermore, I don't even care. But that's stuff that he knows. I think that's charming, and that's probably something you probably didn't even know you did it until somebody like me noticed it. But I think it's a beautiful thing in his character that's childlike. Now, this morning, when I came out of the bathroom, the coffee was made, and there was a little something for breakfast on my plate. That's not, I was glad he grew up and knew how to do that. Right? Because if I'd come out of the bathroom and he was still in bed, and he'd be like, I don't want to get up today, I'd be like, no, I need you to grow up. I need you. So do you see my point? There's things in your personality that are beautiful. There are other things that you need to put away, childish things. All right, what's that got to do with Father's Day? All right, let me get us all in a fetal position and have to go to a therapist this afternoon. My least favorite day to minister is Mother's Day because everybody's always whacked about their mothers. Father's Day, not so much. Fathers are like, whatever. It's not quite as hard. But let me show you. This is a meme that I think there's a lot of wisdom here. It says, you may want to forgive your parents for, and what's this got to do with being a child? Because how you grow up is largely determined by your parents. What parts of you are watered as a child to grow into maturity, and what other things become arrested development. Sometimes people haven't matured past a certain age because of something from a parent, okay? You may want to forgive your parents for, number one, raising you through their own unresolved trauma. Isaiah chapter 11, it talks about in the King James it says the seven spirits of God, but the better translation is the sevenfold Spirit of God. And it means the Spirit of God has 7 dimensions. And he talks about the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of counsel, the spirit of understanding, the spirit of might, the spirit of the fear of the Lord, which is the awe of God. There's 7 that are mentioned. But it specifically mentions the spirit of understanding. Let me tell you something about understanding. Understanding is not condoning. Do you understand? Sometimes you can have a toxic relationship with a parent that you don't necessarily condone, but you understand. There's something about panning that camera back and saying, let me look at the bigger picture. Does that help you forgive? Yeah, it actually can if you sort of understand where they're coming from. And sometimes you can meet a grandparent who's really a lot of trouble, and you think, oh, and I think we have found the source of the problem. You can be, it was just on the other night. It was a Friends episode. Anytime Friends is on, I end up watching the sitcom from the 90s. I don't know, I just end up watching it again. And it was the episode where Ross and Monica's grandmother had passed away. And in the arc of the story, Monica's mother is just always on her about everything, never gives her a break. And so this is after the funeral. She's sitting there talking to her mother in the show. And her mother says, I like those earrings. She says, thank you, they were Nana's. And the mom says something about, that woman never gave me a break. She was always on my back. And the way she described her situation with her mother was exactly Monica's problems with her. And she said, do you know what I'm talking about? And Monica was like, in fact, I do. And it was just interesting because it's very true to life. Second thing is, you may want to forgive your parents for not being able to stand you because they didn't have the capacity to. That one's very helpful to me. um, I think about some of my situations with my dad, and when I look at him positively on this Father's Day, I think, considering where he came from and how different I was from his idea of what a kid should be, he did pretty good. Now, if I view it from my paradigms, like, why was this so hard for you to see? When I look at it from, wow, some of you have fathers who were raised in that same era who verbal affirmation was not their strong suit. As a matter of fact, a lot of men of a certain generation thought it was soft or effeminate to even to say anything positive. Like if the thing was, assume my silence is approval, and if there's something that needs to be fixed, I'll speak up and tell you about it. That's great for one generation. If you grew up in a generation that's highly verbal, sometimes you expect that person from that previous generation to have that same skill set, and they just do not. And so you have to kind of learn, I know it's kind of cliche to say what somebody's love language is. My dad's love language is to give you a lot. If to apologize for something, he'd say, you will have to kill me because I just will never, ever do that. But here's some money. So you got to learn, well, I could use a little money. That apology ain't going to help me. It might fix some internal trauma I've got, but I got bills to pay, so all right, write the check. Because I understand this is how you communicate. You provide, and so I think a lot of you can relate to that. I can tell by your extreme reaction. You may want to forgive your parents for not being able to teach you certain skills as nobody taught them. You may want to forgive your parents for being emotionally unavailable as their parents were emotionally unavailable. You may want to forgive your parents for doing the best they could with what they knew and had. You may want to forgive your parents for following cultural norms that they were surrounded with. If any of you had families that came out of strict religious backgrounds, had certain criteria for things, that's going to color every decision they ever made with you. And then you may want to forgive your parents for raising you through their own struggles, worries, pain, and fears. I just think this is very balanced and true and real, and is a gift to you on this Father's Day. Now let's move beyond Father's Day now. This next thing is by Dr. Dispenza, and I think this is just true for everything. This quote, I've used it before. It says, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. I think that's a very profound statement, because when people say you haven't forgiven unless you've forgotten, I think that's unrealistic. How do you forget? As a matter of fact, there's some things that have happened to you that you shouldn't forget. If you've been in an abusive relationship, you might need to be aware of a pattern of abuse. If you were forgetting all the time, you could set yourself up for really being hurt. But you can remember something. You can compartmentalize and say, I remember that it happened. I can even talk about it to a degree. I can talk about it with some detachment because I don't have the emotional charge with it. I was having this conversation with Christina last week. We were talking about a couple of things on the way to the airport. And she was saying, we're talking about the concept of getting over a thing and being done with it. I said, well, let me tell you this realistically. I know that sounds good in theory to say you're over something. And I said, you can eventually be over something. I said, but let me tell you about triggers. Triggers in your emotional minefield, they don't go away immediately. You have to diffuse them, and they sort of eventually peter out. You know what I mean? You have to sort of cut them off at the source, but also know, like those horror movies where you think the monster's dead, and in your peripheral vision. I've seen, they've done that on so many movies. They started it with, I don't like slasher films, but I remember Howie and I went to see Halloween when it first came out at a drive-in. I remember we were watching it with the windows rolled down in Florida, and I was like, this movie is so stupid. We were like laughing at it until the scene where the crazy guy who became Michael Myers gets out and he's on top of the car, like slashing somebody in the car. We were both like rolling the windows up, like, okay, all right, it's a little scary. But I remember, when it's a horrible movie, but they finally think they've killed this horrible guy, and he's on the floor. They've stabbed him with everything that's sharp in the house. There's no way he could still be alive, and that it's kind of out of focus in the background. And I'm like, he's sitting up, he's still alive. Y'all stop talking. Jamie Lee Curtis, please turn around and notice. He's all right. He's up. I tried to warn y'all. And then even at the end, that's why they had so many sequels to that stupid movie, is when they finally do, I don't know if they shoot him or something, and he falls out of the window, and when they go look out, he's not on the ground. So that he's still out there somewhere. I was watching a thing just this week on YouTube. This guy does these Hollywood tours and shows you different things, and he says, oh, by the way, this is the house from Halloween, and they started playing that little music, and that's where she first saw Michael Myers. I'm like, good Lord, how could somebody live in that house? If I lived in that house, I'd be like, he's up. You think he's dead, but that's kind of the way, you think, oh, I have finally nailed this to the cross in Jesus' name. I am done with it. And then a little something happens, and before you know it, oh, I've done time traveling, and I'm completely, and so you kind of have to allow that for yourself, and even to the point that you say, there's some things I may have to maintain for the rest of my life. Jared and I have discussed this at length because he's very big in recovery, and it's a huge tenet of recovery to say, I may have been sober for X amount of years, but I still am an alcoholic. Some people have an issue with that. I think it's probably pretty smart to say that, just to say I can't set myself up for failure. To say, yes, I am sober. Yes, I am in recovery. But that potential is always in me. And I think that doesn't mean you can't move into the now. I think that's just smart maintenance. And I think any of you that have survived childhood trauma, you're kind of being naive to say, I went to this service, they laid hands on me, and I laid it on the altar, and I'll never deal with that again. Just wait till next week. Something will happen. Somebody will say something before you know. And it doesn't mean there isn't such a thing as deliverance. It means that you can finally look at it with, again, some detachment and say, I remember it, but there's no emotional charge to it. It's diffused. I've taken the bullets out of the gun. So I know the gun is still there, but it can't hurt me anymore. And I'll tell you this, when Ecclesiastes says to everything there's a season, there's a time to heal, everybody's time to heal is different. And everyone in your life deserves the opportunity to heal at their own pace. If somebody isn't healing as fast as you would like, if they bring up something and you're just like, dear God, are you really still talking about that? That's not helpful. Howie said something to me a couple of weeks ago, and I returned the favor this week because he's had a little health situation that he's had to deal with. And so we've talked a little more than my friend from college. And I was just letting him talk it out and not giving a lot of feedback because I'm trying to return the favor. He's done that for me before. When I've called and vented to him and I've said, I'm sorry you're having to hear this again because I know you're sick of me talking about this particular thing. To which he recently said, I could listen to you vent all day because believe it or not, I actually learn stuff when you're venting. Even when you're complaining, you're actually teaching. So it's it's kind of a workshop for me. And he said, and I said, well, and this is why you're my best friend, because I can just go. I mean, I could do that with Ken, but Ken's at work. Ken's on top of a roof, and I'm like, I just need to talk right now. It's not a good time. I need a friend who's retired who I can say, can you talk right now? Because that means I may be yammering on until it's finally talked out. Can I really gross you out? Sometimes sometimes talking about a thing is like vomiting. I know that's gross, but if you've ever been sick and you throw up and you feel a little better, but you're like, that's not all of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go lay back down, but I'm going to be back in this bathroom in about 5 minutes. And then there's a time where you're done. It's like, oh, there's nothing like that feeling, Jesus. Whoo! You feel about 5 pounds lighter. You're like, I think we're done. I think I can eat something now. But and that's kind of emotionally what happens. Sometimes you've talked a little bit about it, but there's still more in there. And not ever, you're blessed if you got somebody who's willing to hold your hair and deal with your purging yourself of your poison. All right. Number 6, quote by Alden Nowlin is this: the day the child realizes that all adults are imperfect, he becomes an adolescent. The day he forgives them, he becomes an adult. The day he forgives himself, he becomes wise. That's not in the Bible, but it ought to be. Because when you're really little, you think, oh, my parents are superhuman. They're superheroes. And then you realize that they're not, and that's okay. You make peace with that. But then there's a time when you finally realize, I've been a part of a cycle with somebody, and I'm going to have to forgive myself of it because they were doing the best they could. I'm doing the best I could. Let me tell you, you'll enjoy life a lot more if you'll just look at everybody, look around in this room and say, everybody in this room is dealing with something. And they're at different levels of dealing with it. Some of them are more successful than others. But you can also get to a place where you realize, oh, I'm not in that cycle. I don't think cycles have to be eternal. I think you can finally get to a place where you can say, and listen, Chandra mentioned about some of your fathers being deceased. Can I tell you that people who have left this dimension can still be pulling your strings? Just because they died doesn't mean it's over. In fact, after death, all these other things start coming up like, well, why didn't that ever happen? Or why did you mean by that? And then once they're gone, there's no possibility of that conversation. I have been able to tell this to many people because I've told it to myself. You don't get everything resolved on this side. You just don't. I wish I could tell you did, but you don't. And that's why we have eternity. To say, I don't know how this, like there's a conversation I want to finish with my father that I will have at some point. And that gives me peace to think, well, and in a more evolved state, we'll be able to communicate without the emotional baggage of this dimension. And the stuff that matters on this side won't matter on that side. That's why I'm not going to tell you this whole story again, but when I had the visitation from my grandparents, the thing that set me free is when I looked at my grandmother in this vision, and she said, Jamal, on that side, people care about that stuff, but on this side, it just doesn't matter. I was like, I'm good. I got up off that bed bulletproof because I said, no, that's Pentecostal Addie Mae told me that on that side, it doesn't matter, so you can say anything you want. My grandmother always said, I'm okay. Whatever. And it gives you a sense of, there's more than just this. I don't have traditional ideas of heaven. I mean, to me, streets of gold and gates of pearl. It's like, okay, what? I mean, whatever. I mean, is that, first of all, I believe those are symbolic, but is that really that much of an incentive? I mean, you know, I mean, haven't you been to amazing places and you're like, oh, wow, Las Vegas is so cool. But you don't just live at Caesar's Palace. You're like, yeah, it was cool. I saw it. It was awesome. Can we go home now? I mean, you know, right? We didn't stay at Caesar's Palace, but we ate at their buffet one time. You know, in Las Vegas, the buffets are incredible because and they're not all that expensive because they want you to spend your money on gambling. So I told him, I said, we gotta go to Caesar's Palace and have their buffet. Well, this couple, little guy and girl, was sitting in there, and they had already been eating for a while because there was a stack of plates. So we sat next to them, and then we ate like pigs. I mean, I couldn't believe, we ate till we're like, good God, I'm never eating again. Because it's everything you've ever imagined on this thing. This couple, still going. They're still going and taking boxes home. I'm like, I think y'all need to see a doctor. There's no possible way. You clearly have a parasite. There's no possible way you could be consuming this much food. We can't even walk, and y'all were already on it before we got here. I was ready to go home. I'm like, I don't know if you said, you want to go to Caesar's Palace today? I'd be like, no, so I'll just have a salad. Because I did that. You can't do that every day. So to me, streets of gold, gates of pearl, not a big perk. But the idea of meeting the people that you love in eternity and being able to work out your stuff. Ro, she won't mind me saying this, she had a sister that passed away this week. And she is it okay to say, I'm not saying anything you didn't post yourself. She had some unresolved issues with her because they weren't close in later years. She's got to step up and take care of it because she's family. The emotional stuff, you'll meet her somewhere, and is that okay to say? You'll talk out the rest of it. That's to me the hope of eternity. Is like on this side we just had stuff. And hopefully, you know, I've met some people later in life that I had issues with that we're finally just like, you know, statute of limitations on that. I don't even know what were we mad about. I don't even remember. But for those people who were like major players in the drama of your life, you know very well how much words that were spoken to you can still very much affect you. You know, one of the best compliments I've ever gotten is, and several people texted it to me this morning, just people who have said to me, I think of you as a father figure, and you've affirmed me in ways my natural father never did. And it really means a lot. That's a very satisfying thing to me. I have three of my, I consider Sophie my daughter. They can tell you I'm uber verbal with them and taking pictures and showing them off because in a way, I'm parenting my own inner child. And I also happen to think they're amazing. Jared and I went to see that To Kill a Mockingbird play at the Fox last month. And Black Lips had just played there just a few weeks earlier. So we got there. We sat down. These two women were there from Alabama. We just started talking to them. And I don't know how we got to talk, but we ended up talking to them for quite a while. My conversation was, hey, can I show you some pictures? He just sang on this stage just a few weeks ago. I could tell they didn't believe me. I'm like, oh, I have pictures. Like, this was just the other day. And it was on my birthday. And in between songs, he said, happy birthday to my dad. And they're like, okay. I said, I have some more pictures. Here's backstage. Do you know why Dolly Parton's picture's on that wall? Because Dolly Parton used the same dressing room. It's my song. At a certain point, I could tell they were like moving down. Like, no, they weren't. But I'm not exaggerating. I was like, the whole time, I'm like, let me show you this. Because I was like, That was cool. The night that they opened for the Black Crowes, and a guy behind me said, "Who is that band that's opening?" I'm like, "The Black Lips." And that's my son on the stage. Please do not interrupt me again. But if you didn't get that, you can parent your own inner child, and you can also give to the next generation what you didn't get. And it actually is very cathartic. Instead of being upset about what you didn't get, another thing that's really probably one of the most validating things, it hasn't happened in a while, but to have some LGBT youth contact, but usually it's a boy, a guy, a young guy, sometimes it's a woman, who will message me and say, I saw your video online, and my pastor says I'm an abomination. I don't even know what that word means, and I know you're a minister. What do you? And to be able to say, first of all, let me tell you this: you're fine, just like you are. God always loved you. There's no mistake. And to be, when they say, "Well, what about these Bible verses?" I can say, I have a book that I've written if you want to read it, or I can just cut to the chase and tell you, yes, there's some things that Moses said and a couple of things that Paul interpreted that Moses said that have nothing to do with gay people in the 21st century. And you're fine. And God, I mean, you can get my book, and I can tell you about scriptures, but the bottom line is God loves you just like you are, and you're awesome. And I'm saying that to them as a father, because they're always way younger than me. And to be able to hear from somebody who's established, that feels really good. That's a kind of fathering that transcends the biological. And then finally, the amazing C.S. Lewis just sort of captures, in essence, everything I wanted to say today, really. This is his quote. "When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up." That right there captures, in essence, because let me tell you something, adulthood can be a drag. You know how when you know you're too grown up, something happens and you have like a really good belly laugh, and you suddenly realize, I don't laugh like this much. Like when I think about, mostly I do this with Hal, but if I ever reminisce with some of the people I went to school with, I always tell them, you know what my biggest memory was? Is sitting up late in the dorm, studying for an exam, and every freaking thing was so funny. I just remember being doubled over with laughter, the kind you can't catch your breath. You know what I mean? When you're like, like, and as you get older, you do that less and less. I remember, I don't know what DVDs Clarice is giving Mom to watch, but Jared set up a DVD player for Mom to watch old stuff. And years ago, my Aunt Ernestine and they had this thing where if you had those old 8mm silent home movies, you could have them transferred to DVD. So she had one that I watched years ago, and it was Mom and her siblings from the 50s, like through the 90s. And the ones in the 50s, everybody was kind of moving in fast motion, you know, and everybody's like playing in the lake. And my dad was picking up my mom, and they were in bathing suits, and she was flipping her legs, and everybody, you know, the guys were posing and acting really silly, which I'd never seen them act like that, because the men I knew were like stressed out and morose, and you know, and I'm like, who are those happy, crazy kids? And then you watch them like through the 60s, you see their, you know, they've got kids now, and you see them yelling at us, and then, you know, advanced like the 90s, they're like older middle-aged people. sitting around a table, like nobody's laughing. I'm like, good Lord, you could just see the timeline of when joy was sucked out of all of your lives. And it was just interesting when you see the trajectory of it. Like, did y'all ever laugh after like 1985? I don't know. But that kind of happens to all of us, you know? You're so involved in just the paying bills and, and then at a certain age, I don't want to bring us all down, but, when you start dealing with doctor stuff and, last year I had so many procedures. It's the most procedures I've ever had done in 1 year. I had everything but a pap smear. And I don't think there was a necessity for that. But they had recommended so many other things. I thought, is that the next thing they're just to be sure, just on the safe side. and I'm relatively healthy, and I remember going to all because everything you go to is a whole thing to it. There's, and I would think, what do people who are really dealing with, real stuff like cancer, or they're like really in pain? Dear God, this must just be such a drag at a certain point where all you're doing is leaving one doctor appointment and going to the next. I could see why some people at a certain point just say, like, I'm ready to go on to the other side because this is just requiring too much maintenance. At least yesterday I was brushing my teeth and I was thinking about all the stuff I've had done already. I thought, well, at least I was doing a checklist. I thought, well, at least I have new eyes. Got that crown fixed, shoulders replaced. Like, check, no cervical cancer. And I was just happy to at least if I had a colonoscopy. Jesus, that's a whole other thing. I got that done. And when they say, you don't need one for another 5 years, I'm like, I may not ever be back up in here. That may be my grand finale. At my age, I'm not telling y'all not to take care of your health, but I'm thinking at this point, we might just go, let's just, do we really have to get, how about 20 years from now, 30 years from now? But that's just a part of adulthood and aging, and the dynamics of it changes, which is why you have to make time for some fun in your life, because you forget how to be lighthearted and how to laugh and how to enjoy stuff. And like sometimes if something really makes me laugh, I'll nearly have this sensation like, what am I doing? Oh, I forgot. That's laughter. Yeah, I forgot about that. I used to do that a lot when you're, dealing with aging and taking care of aging parents, and you're around a lot of stuff. It's like there's not a lot of laughter, and so you have to make time for it. You have to make room for it. Last night, the Saturday Night Live season is over for the year. Next year will be their 50th anniversary, and they had this. When Ryan Gosling hosted it a few months ago, he did this thing. It was like a takeoff on the cartoon Beavis and Butthead. And it's just very funny. And they all get cracked up in the thing. And it was on again last night. And I'm watching this. Anything that makes me laugh like this, I'm going for it again. Because I have a whole little cache of things. Is that the word that you said? A little collection of things I know always make me laugh. My go-to things on YouTube. That I'm like, that because, David had to encourage himself in the Lord. And sometimes you have to remember, like, this is the music that I listen to that makes me feel better, or this is the stuff that I can watch that makes me feel better. And not always, there's a time for watching sad stuff and scary stuff and drama stuff, but there's also a time that you got to keep it up here. And don't let anyone, in their attempt to rebuke your childishness, take away your childlikeness. Amen? And so that's what I'm going to leave with you today. Let's all stand. I don't think I did this for the moms, but I'm going to do this today for the dads. If you're a father, a grandfather, a stepfather, or involved in the fathering process at all, just come stand here. I just want to speak a blessing over you. And mothers, don't be mad that I didn't do it for you. I'm sorry, I forgot. The men need the help more. And the rest of y'all stretch your hands to these men. I speak a blessing over each of these fathers. Thank you for wisdom, guidance, understanding, maturity. For fathers, for grandfathers, stepfathers, fathers-in-law. I lift up these men who have been involved in the creative process and believe for the spirit of Elijah to turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, lest the earth be smitten with a curse, as was written. It is a blessing for fathers to be able to say, these are my beloved children in whom I am well pleased. We thank you, Spirit of God, for the dads, and we lift them up to you today in Jesus' name. Everybody give it up for the dads. And then let's play the outro, and I'll speak a blessing over the rest of you. Please, did you get anything out of this today? Guys, you can just stay down here on the ground if you don't want to climb back up. Yeah.
Contributing to Metron is quick and
Hold
easy.
it a second. Right.
One thing I take from you is that my father and my brother always had issues, and it just does my heart good that I could see them over there.
Yeah.
Fixing it all out.
I totally believe that. I mean, I don't think that's made up. I truly believe. I mean, I feel like I have an appointment with my dad to say, this is a conversation we need to finish, and we're on this side. There's no shame involved. But yes, I hear what you're saying. Okay. Now, Michelle, thank you.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishonthennow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment in
If you have
Metron.
a check, make it to JESM. If you have cash, just pay it forward. I have all the cash apps. If you want to send me Happy Father's Day, I will not return it to you. Once again, give it up for the amazing Shonda Corelli. She was awesome today. You're blessed when you come in, blessed when you go out, blessed in the city, the country, the basket, the store. Blessed is the fruit of your body. You wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. Go in peace. I love you.